Well, give it one more minute and then get started.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's get started then. Good morning, everyone, Akri users and maintainers. Welcome to the Akri monthly meeting. Today we have our usual agenda. We'll start by announcements. We'll move that to our agenda and then we'll have it an open discussion. So Kate, welcome back from KubeCon. Do you want to give us an overview about what the kind of announcement we have today?
Yeah, just on KubeCon in general, Rods and I got to present at Wasm Day about some of the work that we did to integrate Akri with Crestlet, which is a Kubernetes kubelet written in Rust, really fun name. And it basically enables running WebAssembly modules on Kubernetes just as you would containers. And so Rods did some work to convert one of Akri's discovery handlers, our debug echo discovery handler, to be compiled as a WASM module and then executed on Crestlet. So it was a really fun exploration to present. We were able to show kind of the performance benefits. I think our discovery handler went down from being like 103 megabytes to around 3. So huge performance gains on that. And I think it had faster startup times and just as much security because it's sandboxed by default. So it kind of showed how exciting the possibility of Akri completely and entirely running as WebAssembly modules would be. There's some limitations due to what the WebAssembly systems interface currently supports. So that is the interface that enables running WebAssembly on the server, not just in the browser. And it currently doesn't support sockets, for example, which Akri uses to communicate not only with the kubelet, but also with its discovery handlers. So there's work to be done there. And there's a PR into the WebAssembly systems interface right now looking at that. But in the meeting notes here, we can link the recording of that presentation. I believe that all of KubeCon videos are now on CNCF's YouTube site. I think that happened a couple days ago. So anyone who wasn't able to attend KubeCon, whether virtually or in person, should be able to watch all the events. So yeah, KubeCon was a great opportunity to be able to go in person and experience some of the pre-events online too.
That's awesome. Thanks, Steve, for sharing and awesome work on the lesson slide. So announcement, is that you, Kate, or Patrick, who's walking us through this today?
I'm happy to keep going if we want.
Yeah, can you tell us about the CNCF Sandbox updates that are happening to Akri?
Sure. So as a part of becoming part of the sandbox, what the CNCF does is they basically create an issue on their own CNCF GitHub. Fun fact about CNCF, every single thing is open source. So if you've seen that landscape picture, that's just a PR. So one of our things was we PR'd ourselves into that landscape picture with Edric redid our logos and stuff to make sure that they fit the requirements. And we had other tasks, like we had to move to a new organization that was independent. Previously, we were in Deus Labs, which is where Microsoft puts our cloud native open source initiatives. And so now we're a part of our own org called Project Akri that is paid for and supported by the CNCF. So they're also owners of that organization. And so we moved all of our repos, which is Akri's main repo, Akri's discovery handler template, the work that Rods did that you can go ahead and run that now. That's our Akri on Crestlet repo, and our docs are all there. There's other things. So beyond just a new organization, we also have access to Sneak, which does container scanning and licensing. So our preliminary scanning of all our containers, we didn't have a single vulnerability, which kind of shocked me. I think it might be because we are using a lot of layers in our containers and always pulling the latest, but we're gonna put in a workflow so that we have that running automatically and it's visible to everyone, not just folks who have access to the Sneak account. And then that also does license scanning for compliance to make sure we are only using the license that the CNCF expects, like MIT, Apache, etc. And another big thing I would say is we now have a DCO, Developer Certificate of Origin. So it's this bot that whenever you put in a PR, it'll be one of the checks, and it checks that every single one of your commits is signed. This is definitely a pain point for some people, including myself. I'm already having troubles getting used to it. So if you are putting in a PR and you see that you're failing that check, click on it. It provides some one-liners to go ahead and sign and force push all your commits again. Hopefully it'll become a habit for all of us. But that is going to be a bit of a change. And one thing that it affects is the fact that our bot that does auto updates needs to do signing. So we now, I think it just ran yesterday, need to figure out how to handle that. There is the option to automatically approve. So maybe that's something we'll do with our dependency bots. Am I missing anything, Edric? There's a lot of things that anyone can see this issue too. I'll go ahead and put it in the meeting notes later, and maybe Edric will drop it in, but it's kind of fun to see the process.
Yeah, I think you covered most of the important points. It's a list in public, so anybody can go through and just read it. And also, it's fun to read through the comments to see how we kind of tackled like which items to do, and then how we approached it.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would say is we also are a part of the CNCF service desk, which is basically this online portal where we can submit requests for help for various things. And we also have like a community page. So we can host events that are public and open to anyone who can see it in the CNCF. And then finally, at future KubeCons, we'll be able to have maintainer sessions. So that's exciting too. So people can come to that and learn about how to move along our contributing ladder to becoming a maintainer, and also just like ask us questions.
Yeah, that's great. So it looks like for existing contributors, they wouldn't be impacted by the project move. However, they would be impacted by the new sign-off criteria. So maybe we should send a notification on the Slack channel to let people know about this. But yeah, that's great also for anybody watching this. Awesome. And is it now time to celebrate Akri's birthday? Happy birthday, Akri.
Yay. I think it was October 20th was the official birthday, but yay.
Almost seems like yesterday.
Yeah, seriously.
Kate, do you want to talk about the blog that was published?
Sure. I think that it's kind of a dual blog. It's a happy birthday. So kind of a looking back at the past year, and then looking forward at we're in the sandbox now. It's kind of interesting how those events aligned somewhat. So anyone can read that. It's pretty short, and it talks a little bit about the motivation behind Akri, and also about how we moved to our own org now that's called Project Akri. And so maybe that'll be something we do every year now. So we'll see.
Yay. Hopefully next year is going to be in person.
And then just a plug for that blog.
Mm-hmm.
That's just our Medium blog, and anyone who's interested can draft a publication and just submit it to the Akri blog, and say you're doing something cool with Akri and you want to put it out on Akri's publication instead of maybe your own Medium blog. That would be awesome.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So next, I think we just have we're going back into our agenda, and we have a discussion about the new governance doc. So, Kate, do you want me to share a screen and kind of walk through that? Let me do that. So Kate, do you want to give an overview what that is while I pull it off?
Sure. So governance docs, correct me if I'm wrong, Edric, but I think they're a fairly new requirement by the CNCF, and just fairly new in general in the open source ecosystem. And there is a general site, I think, or a GitHub landing page that kind of talks about what governance means. I'm pulling it up. But it is a really good way to say what legal entity owns this project to start off. So for us, that's CNCF. And then going beyond that, how is this project governed? And putting that out in the open is really important to make sure that everything's fair, everything's understood. So things defining roles, for example, like what does it mean to be a contributor versus a maintainer versus an admin? And then what does it mean? How can you move from one to the other? And then furthermore, like how can you and when should you step down? So those are things that we outlined in the governance doc. Inspiration was taken from, I think I'm almost at it, opengovernance.dev. They provide some good examples from projects such as Helm and Node.js and Prometheus. When looking at those examples, it was a little hard to work off of because they're very different, right? Those projects are huge. So they have things like voting rules for disagreements and stuff like that, things that Akri may not be ready for yet, since we don't have a large enough body to maybe where we need such formal processes, but something to look at for the future. One project that has a really good organization in general is Porter. And anytime Akri kind of needs inspiration, I hop over to their repo and see what they're up to. They have I think one more role defined than us along that like contributor, maintainer, admin, but they were a great source of inspiration when creating a governance doc. This is a normal doc on our GitHub. If anyone has any feedback on it, thinks we're missing a role, thinks we need to define something more, please like leave a comment. Another thing that it adds that another thing that came along with this is we revamped our contributing doc too. And one thing that it's important to have in a contributing doc, I believe that's where it is, not in our governance doc, is a place where people can communicate any violations to the code of conduct. And so for that, we've put in contact people you can contact and how you can contact them anonymously, or at least away from the community eye if you were to experience any code of conduct issues. Are there any questions around the doc in general, or should we maybe, Ro, if you have it pulled up, maybe we can look at those rules?
Into problem sharing screen, just give me I got the link. I can share it here if somebody has a.
Yeah, Kate, do you want to claim host and then just transfer it over to Roa?
Yeah, for some reason I can't claim host. I couldn't find the.
Sure, I think I can do that. Give me one second.
Awesome.
I always have to find the, oh, here it is. Okay. Okay, so I should share my screen now. Is that what we're aiming for?
Yeah, sure, that works. I send the link.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so first to show the governance document. So here we are. The file is called GovernanceMD. It starts off by talking about what our code of conduct is. Like I said, it mentions that CNCF is the legal entity here, and then those three roles. So first is community member, then maintainer, then admin. I think one that could be fit in here is contributor. And so that's, I think, one that Porter had, and maybe we should consider adding that too. To start off, community member is just anyone. Like if you're watching this call, if you've been on the Slack, maybe you've seen a presentation of ours, I think you can be considered a community member if you're putting any thought into Akri, because those thoughts, maybe you'll share them via issues or conversations on our Slack or pull requests. So if any of these things fit you, well, no matter what, you can be a community member. And if you want to take actions upon being a community member, here are some good suggestions. you could create a pull request, report a bug, any of the above. Maintainers, they have added privileges that community members may not have. They can review and merge pull requests. So we have a code owners file that defines the current maintainers of the project, and they're automatically linked to every PR. So maintainers also help drive the roadmap for Akri. So we have a project roadmap. Let's see. This is our on our site, our current description of our roadmap, some of the discovery handlers and large items that we're thinking about. And then we also have a larger project roadmap that we will look at the end of this meeting. That's where we do like our issue triaging. And so, yeah, maintainers are expected to help drive the vision of Akri and move us forward on things and listen in and hear what people are thinking, lead these meetings, and help foster a community that people want to be a part of, and make sure to report any code of conduct violations. And finally, to triage those issues in our roadmap, like at the end of this session, which for context, we always do during these community meetings, just to get folks involved in that process. If a maintainer is no longer interested in being a maintainer of the project, they should step down, and they can be moved to emeritus status. So this is something that Matt Butcher coined in the Helm project. And basically in their contributor file, they have something called emeritus status. So it's a section of their file where those folks no longer actively maintain the project, but their contributions still should be recognized, and therefore they're put in this emeritus status. And in order to become a maintainer as a contributor, if you are being more active, you're constantly adding your thoughts to PRs, maybe you write some proposals, you're attending community meetings, promoting discussions on Slack, any of these, it doesn't have to be all of them, but just getting more and more involved. And if you've done this and you feel like you're ready to be a maintainer, reach out to one of those folks in the in the code owners doc and ask, say, hey, do you think I'm ready to be a maintainer? And if not, then discussion can be had on how to get there. And if so, you can be added to the code owners document. And at that point, you'll probably be very familiar with already the processes. And then finally, admins are maintainers with the ability to create new repositories. They have extra privileges in the project Akri org itself. And just to mention, Akri is a release process. We don't have a fixed cadence, but we do follow Semver. So are there any questions on this document here? Or any additions? Cool. The only thing I'll point out is we also added a bit to our code of conduct. Our code of conduct follows the contributor covenant. So this is an organization that has created a template for code of conducts, and most major GitHub, there's something we should fix. Most major open source projects follow the contributor covenant, so Kubernetes, Helm, etc. And so all you do is you basically pull out the template that they have and add in extra context, like who to reach out to for any violations. Great, so I think that's all of that, unless there's any questions.
That looks great, Kate. And for the governments, I mean, that's going to be like a kind of a living doc, right? We might update as we go and as the Akri grows. So looking forward to having more contributors and maintainers.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. With that, we reached the last item of just open discussion. If there's anything or any issues people want to bring up, now is a good timing. Today's meeting has been short, so we've got plenty of time for any other side discussions. Okay, so it looks like there isn't any. Do we have enough issues to do an issue triage? Or we just did one recently. I know that last couple of months has been really busy with the CNCF onboarding, so we might not have a lot of things going on Akri side.
I think there's 4.
Yeah.
Maybe it's done a good timing to go over those. Awesome. Let me pull them up and okay, let me see if I can project now.
Kate, you might have to switch hosts to.
Yeah. If you want to project instead, maybe I can do that too if you give me enough permissions.
Should I make Brian host? Brian, do you want to?
Yeah, sure,
Sure.
Brian. Please go for it.
Okay. Let's see.
I
My
think you
host-
should have the powers.
Yeah. Super
Little dot
powerful.
dot dot. How do I share screen? There we go. Share that one. All right. We see it.
Yes.
Cool. So the first one in here is the node selector for agent and Helm. Essentially, I think we want to control or provide some controls for where the agent appears or is deployed to via node selector. So I think this work there's a PR for it. Super cool. I think maybe we should just throw that over into in progress. Maybe, does that make sense?
Yeah. Should we also assign Kelly to it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's not what I meant to do. Okay.
Yeah, you might have to unassign yourself.
Yeah, well, there we go. If I could figure out how. Okay, there we go. So let's move that over to the column I can't see. Small screen spaces. Oh, no, did it. Just got in the wrong spot. There we go. All right, smooth as butter. So ensure Akri's auto update dependencies workflow can generate. So I think Kate touched on this with DCO introduction. So should we move that into a backlog, or what should we do with that?
Yeah, and then I think you can assign it to me, Brian, for now. I can take a look at that.
Okay. Go here. This. Slide that over to backlog or in progress. What do you want? Investigating?
Investigating, I would say. Yeah.
Now we've got a couple, looks like security scan issues opened.
I can speak to these a little. So there's a segfault issue in the time crate, which local time uses. The way we're bringing in this crate is via Chrono, which is brought in via our Kubernetes dependencies. So kubeRS, which is our Kubernetes client, and Kate's Open API, which is our Kubernetes types. There's a whole thread on this on kubeRS about the fact that I think the version of time that Chrono is using isn't one of the vulnerable ones. But Chrono needs to basically update to time 0.3 or something. What Kate's Open API and kubeRS have done is, I think they basically put in some kind of declarative thing that makes it so that the Rust security doesn't cry on their repos. So I think they somehow determined that it wasn't an issue because of the version of time being used. Either way, it's something that I've put in our past release notes, and it's something that we can continue to watch. I linked in the threads that are happening, but I believe that Chrono has a PR right now that's updating the version. So then when we'll be able to update Kate's Open API and kubeRS to be at the proper version of time.
Okay, so you have a feel for where we should slide this one?
I think, yeah, this is interesting. I don't know where to put things where we don't have power to take necessary or much action, maybe backlog, or
We close
maybe
the
we,
issue?
Yeah.
sorry?
So Kate,
We
if we
close the
update
issue?
the Kate's open API, I mean, they have some kind of a mitigation on their end, right? So if we pick their latest changes, that should go away, right?
But we haven't yet. They haven't.
Yeah.
So I think I don't think it's closed and resolved until we have updated to the latest, and until they have, and therefore we have. So maybe we put it on,
In progress or investigating.
I think either of those could work. Maybe investigating, and we can
Okay.
assign me to them if we want to have assignment in it.
Can't assign from. Be nice if we could conveniently assign from here.
Yeah, we should maybe put in a GitHub request there.
Oh no, we can. Ah,
Oh, cool.
alrighty. I think that covers our issues.
Yeah. Do we have since we have some time, do you want to go at the recently marked stale issues to see if there's anything we would disagree with the bot, since we recently enabled that? I don't think would have any major changes since we increased the timeout, the days to stale, but maybe something we can kind of look quickly through it and see if we have any updates. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
So Brian, can you go to issues and then filter by stale? And then we can see if we have any new recently updated issues. So there's
Label.
a label. Yep. Yeah. So here we go. Is there a way we can sort by recently modified or something? Okay.
Okay, so it looks like support IoT plug and play last updated on the 28th September.
Okay, so looks like we don't have any major changes here.
Yeah, not recently.
Yeah, I think one metric we can use is if someone else has put up the issue and a maintainer has like responded and there's no response, I think it's fair to leave it as stale until unless there is a response.
Okay, so do we want to do any of these, or are we comfortable with where they are?
So for the second one, I think that's one that we should fix, and it's very quick. Basically, in our microK8s cluster setup, we're pointing to 1.19. I don't know if this is something, so I think in the past in our cluster setup, we've always pinned to a version that we validate. Currently, we're validating up to Kubernetes 1.21. So I think there is a point to be made that maybe we should use 1.21. We could also, with K3S, we're just pointing to the latest. So it's kind of a mismatch there. Do y'all have any thoughts on how our documentation should be done with that? If that should be a part of our release cycle, maybe updating what we point to in our docs?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Do we track the docs issues here or in the docs repo?
Yeah, I think this was before we moved.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, in general.
Yeah, in general, that should be in the docs repo from this point on, I would think. But I guess if to give folks a look at what it is, if you go to docs.akri.sh, Brian, you can see in the Kubernetes installation just how K3s is just pulling the latest, and microK8s is pinned to 1.19. So I guess, do y'all think we should always point to the latest, or should we always pin in the latest release?
Are we confident that it would always work with the latest?
I think there's no way to be confident with that.
I think I might suggest a third option, that we don't specify a version. We point to our release notes or change list or whatever it is that has the table of supported versions. And, we don't specify a version. We have a note that says, pick up, these are the versions that we support. And then we don't have to change the docs all the time. It just points to what we support.
I think that sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, do you mind commenting that on the cluster setup flow, just so we remember that?
Sure.
Yeah, and you can remove the stale label, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll update this after the meeting.
Okay.
Do we want to keep looking at other issues, or?
Yeah, maybe keep going through the stale ones.
Okay. Do we want to change this first one?
I think that can be kept as stale.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Agent crashes when API server is not available.
Yeah, I remember we discussed about this one, and
Did we change from the watcher, the new API?
Was that the one kit that wasn't consistently repro? I mean that's by design kind of thing, right? If the API server is not available.
So I think our new watcher, like you mentioned, Brian, will help with this. I think what this issue also is pointing out is that Akri is not fully able to be disconnected from API server. Like, at some point the watcher may still error out because it can't reconcile the version. I don't know if what this needs is some type of ability to be disconnected from the network, kind of like scenarios that KubeEdge supports, where maybe you do some caching of state, and so then when the API server's back, then you push a bunch. I don't know if we want to group that kind of request into this. But yeah, it would be interesting to try and repro this and see if the watcher fixes it at all.
Okay, should we pull stale off it, or?
Yeah, we might even put like keep alive if we want to bucketize the kit, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good idea. This one's so old. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think we kept it stale is a way to nudge
the
whoever opened the issue. See if they still need it.
Brian, what were you saying?
I was like, maybe we let it run its course and close it out. I don't know.
I think that's fair. I also think maintaining 2 different versions of installations might not be something we want to do. And I don't think you would take the lead on it, at least.
All right, so we just let it run.
Yeah.
Our favorite MQTT.
I think that needs to be kept alive. It's just,
do we? I mean,
I think there's
Okay.
like there's a PR currently with a proposal,
Mhm.
and then we recently have had a discussion on a UI that's using an MQTT scenario, and the person who like our last community meeting, they demoed it, and so I think MQTT is something that is very likely to come to Akri, and I think having this issue, if it wasn't open, someone would probably reopen it, I would expect.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's fair. I was just kind of thinking more if we have like one of our investigating or like a high level other kind of issues tracking this, but yeah, we can keep it here and keep updating it, I guess.
Are you saying like it'd be nice to have a flag that was like saying that this is something that's under investigation?
Yeah, like it's not, it's kind of a feature, a new feature kind of thing, right? That's something we're looking into, but yeah, I think it's fine for now. And then whoever is picking this up can change the forum or something.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting thread that's going here. And so I'm excited to see how it continues to go.
Okay, so we're comfortable with Keep Alive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Zerocomp.
Okay, so I think so Daz put in a PR with Zerocomp support. It was put on hold as we were building out our extensibility model because we found that the Mojave daemon really blew up the size of whatever is doing the Zerocomp discovery. In that case, it was the agent. And then I think Daz got pulled into some other work and didn't have the time to continue with it. So maybe we can reach out and see about bringing it back to life, because I do think it would be good to support, especially since he put so much work into it and it was pretty much done.
So there usually the stale labels would actually be put on both issues and pull requests. So I'm assuming the equivalent pull request was also marked as stale.
So that pull request Daz just closed. We had a conversation that was like, would you rather it stay open or close? And he said close. So we would need to reopen.
Yeah, I think that kind of captures kind of the same thought I had about this other issue. Like for features, do you want to keep everything in the issue or do we track them separately?
Oh, that's a fair point. I would say that since our roadmap is kind of this project board that we do our triaging in, it makes sense to keep features as issues. Yeah. Maybe we at least remove the stale, but maybe don't put keep alive. I don't know.
But it will be marked as stale again in another 90 days.
Yeah, and so we see if by that time we've at least reopened it and put some work on it, or if anyone in the community has gotten interest in Zerocomp, then we kind of push it forward.
Okay, sounds fair. Brian, what do you think?
Okay, I'm the game with that.
So with the device plugin interface, when you create a device plugin, there's a way that you declare a device to the kubelet, and you say what it needs. So for UDEV, for example, we say, okay, for this USB video, be sure to mount the video dev note, but we're specifying that mount as a volume mount and not as a device spec, which are two different options that they provide in the device plugin interface. What device spec does for you is it also allows you to specify permissions. So for this, if we want to do it via device spec, then we should also add a part to our UDEV configuration that enables requesting permission levels. I think it's a good feature. I don't know when we would prioritize it.
So maybe it fits the stale because there's really no immediate need for that. What do you guys think?
Well, is there any context in the conversation a little farther down?
Not really.
Okay.
No, I think it's perfectly fine if we look at it and it's been marked stale and we like it and want to keep it around to stale label off like we just did for the other issue, right? And every 90 days we can reestablish that.
That sounds good to me.
What do you think, Ro?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think usually like if things are not stale, then people can assume we either have them on our like immediate action items or things that we're looking into immediately. And so yeah, hopefully that helps people at least understand.
I don't know
if that's something we're gonna fix soon.
I think in that case, is we just the maintainers or the community at large? Because I think a lot of these things, I almost see taking stale off as something that is like saying this is something that we are actively in support of, but maybe would not take the action itself to do. Does that, I guess that was kind of my thing, because we may not have the bandwidth to support all of these issues, but we would maybe be more than happy if someone came in to provide like all the support they needed to do it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, Kate. I also think, yeah, it kind of reflects priority, right? And that's why people can just comment and say, hey, no, this is very important for me. I really need this feature, and it will be active again and the stale label will be removed. So yeah, but yeah, thinking more about it, like if somebody really needs this feature and then they look at that, they found a similar issue and it's stale or closed, would they just like walk away, or will they comment and say, hey, what's the resolution, or like, hey, can we activate this? Actually, I don't know what people tend to do, but at least looking at other projects, I always see people commenting of, hey, I'm running into this issue, how was this resolved, kind of thing. So yeah,
That's
you know,
true.
I think we're learning. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think this is a good example, this one, because while Zerocomp and MQTT are also protocol request enhancements, they also both have implementations by someone somewhere or proposals in. And so for those two, it made sense to peel off the stale, because the amount of work that would need to happen to make them happen is a lot less than, for example, this, where I don't think Kelly ended up implementing one, but maybe this is one where we add a comment and ask.
Our comment would be, is there any desire for this? Is there any need for this? What's the priority here, or what are we looking for?
Yeah, maybe just what's the conclusion on adding support for this? Does it seem like a feasible discovery handler from your perspective, and maybe at Kelly on that?
Is that okay?
That seems great.
Kind of my opinion here is there's no harm in letting this one just go stale and wither unless other people have discovered this to be a problem.
That is kind of wild though. How so yeah, just for context on this, and remind me if I'm wrong, Brian. Basically with the device plugin, there is, because it was designed with the assumption that the devices are static, like GPU and other hardware, there is no way to cleanly, like when a capacity goes down to 0, the kubelet doesn't clean up that resource in the node spec. So if say you're using Akri over time, the node spec of the nodes that you're running Akri on can really bulk up with all of these random devices with capacity of 0. So maybe something like this would be creating a script that you could run that would clean up your node specs to remove all of those. I don't know.
And remember, did he come up with a way to clean it out at all?
Yeah, you can do, because I ran into this a little with Crestlet, but you can basically like do patching but via the API server. So you could run a series of node patches.
All right. Should we leave it alone, or?
I would leave it as stale, but I do think that, like, because I don't think it causes any issues. It's just a few lines and like a YAML that's like stored in etcd, but it is something that maybe someone would be curious about and want to see that issue for.
Right, so this is a way to make Swagger for our types. Generally have the same opinion of this one. Although now that we've got our own repo or our own organization, maybe it gets easier to do this.
Can you explain this one, like how the workflow would change if we had it?
I don't think our workflow would change at all. I mean, it's just basically if somebody wanted to use our types, but didn't want to bring in our entire repo, how would they do it? Right. So you create a Swagger or something that sits out there in its own repo that's much smaller, I think. And then someone could just pull that in, right? So they're just pulling something very small in.
Yeah, I think it fits into our roadmap of having like Akri standardized like some of those things like discovery of edge devices, but I'm not sure if we're there yet. Or
That's a fair point, Roa. Like maybe that's something that we would prioritize hitting 1.0. Because yeah, I think it's an important ask, but yeah, maybe we leave the stale on it and reopen it when we're ready to address it. This one, I believe we can. I don't remember the details of this one. It looks like it's resolved from Daz's next comment. But regardless, this would be a really cool thing to enable with Akri, and this goes along with adding incentive to the Zerocomp discovery handler.
Okay, so do we want to just leave it alone, or do we think it's been resolved?
yeah, I mean, ideally, if we're picking up the Zerocomp, somebody would just look at the list of issues we have related. I don't know if you want to mention them all in that other like issue, but I don't think there's an immediate action for that one unless we pull the other.
I think this can be closed. My instinct is, I think it was a place for a discussion. But I think,
Okay,
yeah, I
I think it's resolved, right?
yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah. I remember, Brian, this being something that was really hard to repro.
Yeah, I'm not sure there was a fix either, right? So it's, or that there was any harm to it, I guess maybe I should say.
Yeah, I think we discussed this one. This was more of a stale, and we decided to keep it stale until we could repro, and then we can activate and fix if we know what the issue is.
Let it play its course.
Mhm.
I looked into this a little and ran into, I basically just didn't have enough time to fully investigate how to connect to the KubeEdge equivalent of API server. But I do think getting Akri running on KubeEdge or OpenYurt or SuperEdge, one of those would be really cool. But I don't know when that's, like, I think if anyone in the community picked that up, that'd be really cool. But I don't know if that's something that's prioritized right now.
We peel the stale label off, reflect that we think it sounds cool, and revisit
Yeah.
in 90 days when it gets marked stale again.
Sounds good to me. Okay, so this one, it does still periodically fail. Our end-to-end workflows, but rerunning it usually fixes it. And I don't know if there's much more optimization that can happen with them. I don't know if we want to always keep this around just so if people see it fail, we can point to this issue and say like rerun. Do y'all have any thoughts on that?
Until this becomes more painful, we don't investigate it. And
Yeah.
I'm also wondering if, as part of moving the project, do we get any like upgrade in our GitHub runners?
Oh, that's a fair question. Our organization is, we're not on the free level, we're on the team level.
Mhm.
I don't know what that means for our runners. I think we're still in the bucket that GitHub provides all open source projects, regardless of paying tier, which is like unlimited runs. And I think GitHub doesn't support other type of runners. So I think maybe they've updated that documentation on the hardware specifications for their VMs, but what they allow you to do if you have like enterprise level or something is provide your own runners, I think. But we could consider not using GitHub. That would be an option. I don't think I would want to do half and half, like some on GitHub and some elsewhere. And I kind of like the fact that anyone can easily click into the logs.
Yeah, I would prefer consistency as well. Yeah, I was just curious if that's something that we can experiment with. But yeah, I agree, Kate, to your initial suggestion about keeping it around. Keep the stale label, I guess, since it's, I don't know if we have anywhere in the issue that we say, hey, rerun the issue with fix it, and then we can close the issue or something and say, hey, like I'm wondering if somebody hit it, can they know what to do just by looking here and finding this issue?
Can anyone rerun an issue, or do you have to have higher privileges in the repo?
I think anyone can. Actually, I'm not sure. I thought anyone can rerun workflows, but like for a PR you started, for example. Check.
Shouldn't that comment remove the stale issue just by commenting?
Yeah, it would.
Should I
Did
close
it?
it? Should I close the issue? I mean, the job's got to run again before it removes the stale, right? So
Oh, yeah.
in time it might. Do we just want to close the issue then?
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Almost there.
Yeah, we really are working our way through them. The last one, I think stale should be removed from that since there's a PR up for that. I would love to have those labels added. I think it really will make things a lot smoother.
Yeah, I started actually adding the label same version to my PRs to get used to it. I know it's not working yet, but
yeah,
it would be really nice.
All right, so that's all of them.
Great. And with 2 minutes left, that was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good cleanup call.
Okay, I think with that we can wrap up. Thank you, Brian. Thanks, Kate, Adric, and see you next Akri meeting next month in December.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.
All right.
Bye.